Happy Friday, everyone. We are back one more time for the fourth edition in the same day of the E29 Baseball Journeys podcast. As always, I want to start by thanking our sponsors, Chihuahua Cerveza in Newport Beach. If you're out in the Newport area, stop by, try one of their fine beverages, have a little bit of food, and let us know what you think. Also, Adam Schwartz Real Estate. Adam affords us this nice office in downtown Riverside where we handle all of our online business. And 100% Media. The boys at 100% do all the editing, the videography, and they set up this fine studio for us to have our guests in and do everything that we do online again for you. So today, folks, I got a very special guest. He didn't want me to build him up too much, but it was lucky to have him because he was in the area and he was actually kind enough to let me know. He could have snuck through Riverside and I would have never known he was here, but he's going to give me some of his time and drop some baseball information on us. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Eddie Cornejo from Cal State Northridge University. Eddie,
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming by. It was one of those where, I knew you were in the area. I knew your family was still out here, but with all the things going on, I didn't know what anybody's schedule was. I have some coaches that they kind of camped out wherever the school was, and they're just going to wait until things happen. And, maybe they're in transition. And, I was fortunate enough to catch you coming by. So I definitely thank you for giving me your time. I know you got family in town. And
my parents are here. I grew up here, and I just finished a 9-day camping trip with my family, so we're stopping by.
Where'd you go?
We went to the Eastern Sierra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you big hiker, fisher?
We did a little bit of fishing. We did some hiking. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so just entertaining them at this point, corralling them,
How was the weather up there?
It was beautiful. I mean, with the exception of maybe 2 windy days of 50-mile-an-hour gusts where we had to stay indoors, it was fine. Yeah, it was beautiful.
How's the water? A lot of water there? Or?
Yeah. We were up in Mono County.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of lakes if you go up the 395. Yeah. And we spent a little bit of time in Mammoth. On the way back down, we went to the Lone Pine area and camped overnight in Alabama Hills.
Okay.
That was a little scary because it was the first time where we were camping remotely, just us, nobody else, in the pitch dark. So that was interesting.
So do you guys tent camp, or is that?
No, we've got a little camper trailer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I ask them because I don't do a lot of it. My wife's always wanted to get into it. We used to with my dad. My dad was a big outdoors guy, hunting, fishing, and all that stuff. But, we've looked into it, and I know some friends do it. But again,
I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, of course. You get to bond with your family. You're within arm's reach all day, every day. Maybe for some people that wouldn't be too exciting, but we love it. Throughout the course of what I do, I'm gone quite a bit.
Right.
So it's a great investment, I think, especially with young kids. You get to expose them to the outdoors and throwing rocks and sticks and getting cut up, and it's been fun.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite place that you guys go?
I know my wife loves a campground up in Mono County. It's called Mono Village, where they have it's a big lake, a big campground. There's places to hike. There's a little neat cafe. It's a self-sufficient little area. It's the south twin of the Twin Lakes up there.
Okay.
It takes a little while to get there. It took us, I think, over 6 hours of a drive. But if you leave really early, it's easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to get away from city stuff, you have to put a little time in on the road, which is part of it. I remember doing that. We actually, we had a big, not necessarily our personal family, but cousins and aunts and uncles and family of my father. We had a lot. So we did a lot of Jackson Hole, Grand Tetons. We did Yellowstone, Yosemite quite a few times. So, cool. That's something that we haven't done as a family, partly because just I think now life is a lot more active, but for you, I can see that definitely. This is a different time for you. Everything's kind of calm and yeah. We were just talking about that with Angel, and I was asking him. I'm curious how this is going to affect a lot of maybe newer coaches or coaches that might be on the younger end. You're a little farther along in your career, but guys that may have already experienced that grind that the college season or the baseball season puts on you. Now they get all this time that they won't really get again, if you continue in that baseball career, how that's going to change, your thought process.
Yeah, it has to be tough. I was fortunate enough when I started coaching to be in a good spot. One of the better coaches I've ever been around, Dennis Rogers at Riverside Community College, took care of me when I was there. Didn't mean that I was working. I mean, I was working 7 days a week and grinding for him, but he took care of me. And now the financial situation for a lot of young coaches is so tough. I would imagine when things get this strenuous, you got to look at other avenues until things free up and maybe you can circle back. But I've been fortunate.
Yeah, it's tough now because as you started, I think I touch on was a lot of those guys rely on those camps and a lot of the clinics and the lessons and things like that you get in the off season. Now, that's changed for a lot of guys. And then I think there's probably some uncertainty as far as what's going to be there for coaches at the lower levels, at the high school level, even your coaches that might be transitioning into paid positions. What's going to be there financially with the state schools and things like that.
Yeah, from what I've gathered, I think guys are trying to be as creative as possible. A lot of, whether it's like evaluating over video, one-on-one individual lessons, I think those coaches, and I did it for a period of time, your brain never stops working on how to create finances for yourself. So it's an unfortunate time for them. I think they're being challenged in different ways, and if anybody's listening, I'd say no, don't stop, continue grinding, and hopefully we come out better on the other end.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a situation where a lot of occupations have to reinvent themselves, and a lot of people are going to have to really dig into their creative side and find different ways to do things that they've always done. So I'm going to circle back a little bit. And so, we touched on you being from the Riverside County area. So go back to as far back as you want with baseball, and how did you get your start and up to where you are right now at Northridge?
Well, I started playing baseball when I was 7. I'm the second oldest of 5 boys. My parents needed something for us to do, right? My dad was a cabinet man, a blue-collar man, and never got a chance to play any sport when he was younger. He immigrated to the United States when he was in his teens, as did my mother. And so I think they wanted to give us a good life, and they gave us an opportunity to play. So I jumped on baseball for whatever reason. I just hate running and despised soccer, and so I just took to baseball, and so did my older brother, who's a year older than me. We just both picked it up, and we loved it. I became, as I grew up, I became an infielder. I remember in a Little League game, I was pitching for the first time, and there was a heavier set kid that I was facing, and I don't think he played baseball very much. I threw the ball right at him, didn't intend to, but he got so scared that he opened up to the ball and threw his hands up, and the ball hit him right in the chest, and he was down. And so I thought, okay, I guess I'm not a pitcher, so I decided to play the infield. Went to Jurupa Valley High School. I think high school is the time when you kind of decide as a young kid, do I really want to pursue this seriously to some extent? And I did, and didn't know exactly where I fit in, but I played for a gentleman named Paul Kumamoto, who's at Jurupa Valley, and he was a great disciplinarian. We were a competitive team, and I grew up in a disciplinarian home, so it didn't bother me, that he was really hard on us and that he coached us hard. So I took to that and got better and created a love for baseball to pursue the next level. Got an opportunity at Riverside Community College. I played there for a couple of years. We won 2 state championships when I was there. I played for Dennis Rogers. I mean, I can talk the entire time about Dennis Rogers, but to this day, he's one of the most influential teachers, I think, in the game of baseball, especially in this area. Was just recently inducted into the ABCA Hall of Fame in Nashville this last January. helped me get a scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, played there, and then got drafted by the Oakland A's, I believe, in the 13th round, and had a good career. Just a lot of utility player, play a little second, play a little short, a little third. Got to AAA, and when I was playing for the Sacramento River Cats, you get to watch players like Lou Merloni and Gregorio Petit play a long time, and you realize, if I don't get as good as these guys really fast, I'm going nowhere. So, I think at 27, I called up Dennis Rogers at RCC, and I said, "What do you got for me? I don't know how much longer I have." And he said, "Well, come to work tomorrow." So I started coaching, and here we are. I spent a little bit of time there. Was the interim head coach for a year. Baptism by fire, man. I didn't get a chance to sit back and see how coaching was done necessarily. As a player, I was focused solely on myself, trying to make myself as good as I could. Not in a selfish way. I was just overwhelmed constantly. I didn't have a strong arm, couldn't hit for power, and I was a slow runner, so I had to do everything I could to keep up with everyone else. He said, "How much can you do?" I said, "Give me whatever you can." And he had some things off the field that took him away from the field, and I was fortunate enough to be there for him. So I did as much as I could. I fundraised, I recruited, became the interim head coach for one season. I did everything that the program needs. I was the guy. I had a couple of guys that would help me every once in a while. Rolando Garza, who's now with a pitching coordinator with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. He was getting his master's degree at Cal State San Bernardino. He would come by and help me out a little bit. An old friend named Ryan Wing, who pitched at RCC, who went up was a second rounder, went up, I think, with the White Sox organization, pitched a little bit in Japan. He was able to help me out. So I had to get every resource I could, that was available, that was pro bono, that could help me grind through that season. And then got an opportunity to interview for a Division I job at UC Riverside with Doug Smith, and took over for Randy Benton, who was an assistant there. Randy's now the head coach at Cal Poly Pomona. And Randy coached me. He was an assistant at Riverside City when I was a player there, so took over for Randy, which was neat, and had a good experience. Then I interviewed for a job at UC Santa Barbara with Andrew Checketts. I was there for 7 years. Then went over to San Jose for 1 year with Brad Sanfilippo, who's currently there, and then just got hired at Cal State Northridge last summer. Yeah. So been kind of all over, but it's been neat. It's been, I've been exposed to a lot of great coaches who do things in many different ways, and I've learned a ton, and I still have a lot more to learn. So hopefully I'm in this job for a while.
Well, it's interesting hearing, because the guests that I've had on kind of span all these different age groups, and from the younger guys, that are in their 30s, just starting out coaching, and I've kind of watched you from off and on from UCR and going through, and now you're kind of one of the senior guys as far as the D1 coaching, because you've been at a few stops and you've got some experiences that some of the new guys, they would definitely look to you as a mentorship. And now that you're at Northridge, it's kind of back home. You kind of move a little bit closer, but it's a whole different environment up there. That's you're kind of out on your own in Northridge a little bit. You're not really close to a lot of things in LA, and just kind of a different area from the times I've been up there. But so as you were coming up, and I know I've asked everyone different times when they decided that coaching was what they wanted to be, and you transitioned from a player to coaching. Was that an easy decision? Was that something you kind of knew you wanted to get into after, or was there a plan B?
It never crossed my mind as a player. The one guy that convinced me I'd be somewhat decent at this was Dennis Rogers, at the former head coach at Riverside City. I maybe said 4 words to him as a player the 2 years I played for him. I was just overwhelmed constantly. Yeah. I was working at a claim jumper, bussing tables, going to school, hitting weights at 6 a.m. and then going to school, then going to practice, and I drove a 67 Mustang in those days, and you have quite a bit of room. But I remember leaving practice to my shift at the claim jumper, changing out of my baseball uniform as I was driving.
Yeah.
I would change out of my baseball uniform into shirt, tie the tie as I'm driving into Corona, and get done with my shift at 11:30 and do it all over again.
Yeah.
But I attribute me coaching to Dennis. I wanted to get into business. My dad had his own cabinet building business. You know, he always told us to work for yourself, do something where you can see the fruit of your labor in front of you. And I wanted to do that, but you know, you fall in love with baseball, and then someone tells you, hey, you might be good at coaching one day.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. And I did it for a year and got overwhelmed. Like I said, I was doing almost everything at Riverside City, and I guess because it was hard, I stuck with it and kind of got over the hump and was able to really enjoy it. Especially when I got to UC Riverside, where you go from being a head coach at RCC, where you have everything on your plate, and you're coming up for air every once in a while, and you don't have time for a girlfriend or any kind of social life. And then I got to UC Riverside. I had just gotten married, and I got to breathe, and I got to actually enjoy coaching. So, I had very few things on my plate at that point, so it was nice.
It's interesting because there's that transition from being a player to a coach, and then being an assistant and a head coach are two totally different things. But what I've always thought was kind of cool is it's a different kind of challenge. It's still baseball, but it's two totally different animals. And now having to relearn something again through baseball is always a new challenge that I think kind of relights that baseball fire for most guys.
Yeah, no doubt. If anybody is an assistant coach, it's really easy to criticize the head coach.
Yeah.
You do it on a daily basis. But it is totally different when you're in that chair. And I had a very small glimpse into what it is and what it's like. Dennis did it for so many years. I feel like it'll prepare me if a head coaching position comes up in the future. I will be much more prepared for it because I've had that glimpse. But it is a different animal. And I did it at a junior college level. You know, to do it at a big school or in a competitive conference, I think it requires a whole new set of skills, because there are a whole new set of challenges, I think.
Yeah. Well, even as an assistant, until you get that head coaching role, you probably realize there's a lot of things that the head coach didn't really show you, the pressures that he was feeling, because it wasn't anything you could really help with. There's a lot of things that the head coach has to deal with on his own. So
Sure.
You really don't get a grasp of that pressure until you're sitting in that seat.
Yeah. And so much of it is just, as an assistant coach, you're just trying to do a good job. So you're focused on what you need to do, and you don't really know what the head coach does until you shadow them and pester them and get good enough into what you're doing to be able to take on more responsibility. And that's kind of what I did with Dennis. I knew he needed help, and I wanted to make things as easy for him as I could. I love him like a second dad, you know. And so he was going through some stuff, and I wanted to help him as much as I could. And so I had no problem working 7 days, 16-hour days, if it meant making it better for him and to some degree.
Yeah.
And then it shows you how loyal I am. I ended up leaving right after that year, so to pursue something else.
I mean, and then being around a guy like Dennis, he's so great at it. He probably never showed the pressure he was under, during any time.
Never, never. He was
those guys that are so locked in, you never know. They make it look so easy that you think, oh man, I'd love to be in that seat. And then all of a sudden you realize how much they do such a good job controlling all of that chaos that's underneath.
He really made me feel like I questioned ultimately my ability to be as good of a human as he is, just because he handled so many things. He took care of so many people, and I feel like I'm trying to aspire to be as good as he was. I think it's impossible.
Yeah.
For me. So unfortunately it makes me doubt myself, and to some degree I'll never be as good as him. But that's what makes me special, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting because I had Rudy in here a couple weeks ago, and we talked about that too. And I said, not that I'm saying that you do, but in a position like he took over, and you did too for that year, it's almost impossible not to feel like you're in that shadow, even though Dennis wouldn't want to put you in that shadow. But when you get around coaches like that have done it so well for so long and make it look so seamless, it's really hard to not doubt your ability, but everyone's judged on a different level.
Sure, and I remember I think a month or two ago, I saw John Savage, the head coach at UCLA, in a podcast talking about one of the more important things that you can do is be yourself. And, as a young kid not knowing what the heck I was doing, I was trying to mimic everything Dennis did, and trying to be him as much as I could, and it was tough. So I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, but I mean, in that situation, that's probably one of the toughest you're ever going to come into. If you do go into a head coaching role, you'll have a little bit more background, a little bit more of a heads up, and a little bit more time to prepare. The situation that you referred to was really tough for anybody. It's just a situation where you're trying to do your best in a short period of time and with a lot of uncertainty. But I think that really makes a big difference.
Sure, and I felt it prepared me for the next job.
Yeah.
By nature, I feel like I have ADHD. I can't focus on one thing. I constantly forget my keys. I can't find my keys or my wallet. I'm a scatterbrained so much. But when you get to engulf yourself into one thing, and people rely on you, you have to take your attention to a different level. And sometimes that's what it takes. Other people rely on you in order for you to do that.
Yeah, it changes your focus.
Yeah,
it's definitely different. So after RCC, so you went over to UCR, and you were there for...
I was there for 6 months.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking years. I'm like, no, it wasn't that long.
No. Randy Benton, the head coach at Cal Poly, who was an assistant at UCR, got hired at Cal Poly, I believe, in December. Late November, December, which is kind of an odd time.
Yeah.
But that's when he took the job there, and so there was a vacancy, and I was living in the area. I didn't have any kids. I just recently married, and my wife and I needed benefits, and Dennis knew right away as soon as that job opened up that he pre-prepared me for the interview, and was able to put some of his references onto my references, and he helped me. He's just an extraordinary person when it comes to those things. He prepared me as best he could, and I met Doug. Doug's a great guy. I think he's still in the area, and had a great career at UCR. He's one of the better human beings. He's one of the funniest guys that you can be around. He's got so many stories, and was there for 6 months. I was fortunate enough to coach a team that was already somewhat seasoned. So you had I had an experienced infield. I was the infield coach, and I helped Doug with the hitting stuff. And 3 of our 4 infielders were drafted after that year. And our shortstop, Trevor Haregrove, who's now an assistant at Washington State, knew Andrew Checketts, who had just become the head coach at UC Santa Barbara, and Andrew Checketts spent some time at RCC when I was there as a player. So him and I knew each other, and Trevor Haregrove was on the phone with Andrew and said great things about my ability to coach him and coach other people. And so ultimately players get you the job, right?
Yeah.
If you're able to help them. So that's kind of where I made the jump from UCR to Santa Barbara.
So I remember that. And then how long were you up there? 7 years, you said?
7. Yeah.
So give me one, because you guys had a lot of success up there, kind of reworked that program, did a lot of great things. Give me one moment from there that you would think was probably your highlight as a coach at Santa Barbara.
Well, we went to the College World Series in 2016.
Right.
We went to the University of Louisville, and they were an unbelievable team. We started the regional at Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt was unbelievable. They had one of their relief freshman pitchers pass away during the regional, and sent the whole team into a spiral. And I don't think mentally they were fully there. They were grieving their teammates so hard, and understandably so. Sure. It was a tragic thing that had happened. We never got to play Vanderbilt. I think they lost their first 2 games. We played the University of Washington in a tough game, and we played Xavier in 2 tough games. And so we left that regional going, wow, that was great. We didn't expect to go this far, and then went to Louisville, and that team was unbelievable. I believe they had 5 first-round draft picks that year. And so we had Shane Bieber, who was the major league all-star MVP last season for the Cleveland Indians. He was our ace. He was just a walk-on that threw the ball wherever he wanted and just dominated Louisville. So the following day, I believe it's the elimination game for Louisville, and it's a best of 3 series, and I believe we're down by 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth, and we get our bases loaded against a pitcher who's throwing over 100 miles an hour, and he's in, I believe, his 3rd inning of work, and so we're kind of grinding him down, and then we have a pinch hitter come up to the plate. He's just a 3rd-string backup catcher, freshman kid that just swings out of his butt, and he hits a changeup out for a ground slam, and we go to the World Series. So it's hard to beat that moment,
right?
In my 7 years there. So the experience of what Omaha is, and I believe the year we were there, Coastal Carolina won the national championship. So you had 2 newbies. They tend to be the hometown favorite. So we had a lot of people cheering for us. We had a lot of the home crowd cheering for Coastal Carolina, and it was cool to see a program like that win the whole thing. So it gives you motivation for the next year. Yeah. For the years to come.
Yeah, it's even different, I imagine, for you as a coach, seeing it on TV beyond that point and then actually experiencing it, almost like a player.
Yeah, you're one of the cool moments. I believe it was during the regional that year. Because you're just so fixated on recruiting your players and trying to get them to not sign for $100,000 to $200,000 in the draft, and at the same time you're coaching your own players, and you've got family, so you're constantly overwhelmed. And we win the regional at Vanderbilt, and we hug each other. We're excited, and one of our assistants, Matt Harvey, he turns to me and he says, "That's a lot of great work by you." And it kind of struck me, like I never had a chance to really reflect on all the work that we did do in order to get to that point, until he said, and maybe it was just a matter of saying the right thing at the right time, but it kind of hit me that, it's taken a toll on my family, all this work, and so it's something to be proud of.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure for them too, they're proud of you for that. And it gives them a little bit of solace in the fact that, hey, this is why he does that, and he got to experience it.
Sure.
So it makes it a little bit easier for them, for you to do that. But, that's one of those few things for a college coach, other than winning the whole thing. That's so few people get to experience that. There's some players and coaches that do it almost every year, but to be able to make it there as a coach, that kind of gives you that fuel to want to keep grinding up the coaching ladder to get there again, almost like they talk about a Super Bowl for a player or a World Series for a player. But yeah, that was really a cool experience. I actually remember that. I remember actually following that because I wanted that for you guys and for Andrew and those guys. It was just kind of cool to know guys that were there. When I was when I was coaching at Rancho, we had a kid that didn't get to play much for us, a tall, lanky outfielder, but he was a 4.0 kid, Jason Morgan, and he goes up to Stanford Academic, and he's the manager on the team. And so in the 2 back-to-back years, I don't remember when they were, maybe they were in the late 90s when Stanford was there back-to-back, he's holding a clipboard, and just about every shot that they had in the dugout, he's standing in full uniform with his batting gloves right next to the head coach there at the time. I forget his name, but anyway, he's in every shot. And so we always joked about that. He never played an inning for us, I don't think. And here he is 2 years in a row. He's got 2 College World Series rings, and he's on TV every time the head coach is on TV. But I was just more happy for that kid because he's got the full uniform on, and he's just sitting right there next to him with the clipboard waiting for the coach to give him something to do, and he's bouncing around. But
that's neat.
Yeah, it is. It's neat for that. And, it's just one of those where you look at all these other guys that grind and play and maybe get to the Division I level but never experience that. And here's a kid that through all academics, he ends up living that dream and he never sees the field of it. But it's just kind of a curious story. But so you're there at Santa Barbara, and then you move on from there to San Jose.
San Jose.
Okay.
Yeah, with Brad Sanfilippo. He was the interim head coach the year before, and they hired him full-time. He needed a recruiter, someone that could rebuild a roster. And so went up there for a little bit for just that one season. And Dave Serrano, longtime Fullerton assistant coach, was the head coach at Fullerton and Irvine. Took those 2 programs to the College World Series. Was the head coach at Tennessee for about 6 years, and was at West Virginia. Came back and took over the program at Northridge, and so I interviewed with Dave. One of his former coaches, Sergio Brown, who's now the assistant at Cal State Fullerton, connected us together, and a good friend of mine, Neil Walton, who was an assistant at Santa Barbara with me for many years and helped us go to the World Series and host a regional and do all that. He was also interviewing for an assistant position there, and so I couldn't pass up the opportunity to work again with Neil. Neil is a very, he's someone that I admire as a person, as a thinker, as a coach. He is very cerebral about how he goes about things. He's very methodical. I think he's very loving about the people who are around him and who he supervises. I think he cares deeply for everyone. He'll sacrifice anything that he has for someone else in an instant. And we get along really great. I don't think that there's ego between us, which I think is very rare in college coaching, which was kind of a new thing for me when I stepped in. You as a player, you get taught by your coaches to be so selfless and put the team in front of you. And then when I started coaching, I saw something very different. There was a lot of drama, and there was a lot of ego with individuals, and guys are just trying to get themselves in a better financial position, get to the next job, which I understand. But
sure.
Behind closed doors, it's a different thing, which really shocked me. So it was a breath of fresh air to be around Coach Walton, and when I was at Santa Barbara when he got there, and so we kind of remained close, and I respect him for his knowledge, and he has a different approach than I do, and I think we work really well together. So the fact that he was possibly going to Northridge, and Dave Serrano, who's the head coach, coaches the pitching, was basically, myself and Coach Walton in charge of the position players. So, I jumped at the opportunity and to come back, be closer to home. My wife's family's from Orange County and my family's from Riverside. So, we're 2 very family-oriented people, and we jumped on it.
Yeah. It's actually unique that it comes back to that because, being in the grind, it's actually kind of the nature. If you want to work your way up that ladder, there's a lot of jumps, and some coaches, everything falls in line where they kind of stay close to home and opportunity jumps up. But, it's good when that happens. And so that kind of leads me to my next question there. So when you guys started, did you even get the season going there? I think this was your first season.
You mean at Northridge this year? We started, we finished up with a 10-5 record.
Okay.
The majority of our games were on the road. It was mid-season. We were actually practicing on a Thursday because we have 3-game weekends. We'll play every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the University of Iowa was supposed to fly in to Northridge that night, and we were practicing in the morning, and we got a call saying we're not coming.
Yeah.
We've been shut down. There's a lot of things going on. Our administration won't let us. So, okay, well, how can we pick up 3 games with this last-minute notice? And soon enough came the notice from our administration that, this weekend is canceled, no games, and we had to shut everything down until further notice. So we sat at home, twiddled our thumbs, and stayed by our phone until we got the word to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really an interesting time, and I always have to ask everyone that question because it's not that I wanted it to be, but it's been becoming one of those dates that where were you guys when, now, and you don't want to think of it that way because a lot of times that's associated to something really tragic. Not that this isn't, but from the baseball standpoint, I know everybody was at a different point, with high school, college, and your pro level guys. So going forward, have you had a lot of conversations online, Zoom, things like that with your players? Being that you guys were brand new, it's kind of tough because that was your time to feel like you were just getting to know them. You were just starting to be a team, so to speak.
Yeah. In your college season, your hours are limited as they are.
Right. You
can't go through an entire fall feeling like you accomplished everything that you wanted to, so you're already limited. And now that we've been quarantined and we've been shut down for so long, it's definitely harder. We've stayed in touch with our current players. We've tried to place them on summer teams, but summer leagues all over the country continue to get canceled.
Right.
I know small little operations are starting to pop up, like an indoor facility where pitchers can throw to a hitter in live at-bats, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to connect our players to do that. We were really excited about this year. We thought that the players at Northridge, even though this was our first year, they were buying into what we were doing and the message that we were sending them. The team comes first. I think it's been really neat for me to be able to see Coach Serrano really control a room. When he has a group of young men in front of him, he can really control that room, and he speaks with such conviction, and he really cares about everyone. He cares about us as a staff, and so we've bonded well together, and it was I woke up early every day looking forward to go to work, which was awesome. And you would expect every assistant coach to feel that way all the time because you are just coaching a game. But, work gets in the way.
Yeah.
The stresses of the job get in the way sometimes. And but I loved it. The players were excited about the season. We were playing well. We were playing well on the road, and we couldn't wait to get back home. And, it was unfortunate. So we're kind of just limited to having Zoom calls with our incoming recruiting class, getting them up to speed with how the processes of school are changing and evolving. So we're communicating with them every once in a while. You're communicating with your own team, but what can you say?
Yeah.
What can you say to them right now?
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question because you being on both ends, you being a professional and then playing in college, and then now being a college coach, your athletic clock, so to speak, you're always focused on a deadline, be ready for this, and now that's taken away. What advice have you given to your guys as far as being ready, staying ready? No one even has a program for this as far as staying in shape or staying ready.
Yeah, no one has a playbook. All you can do is continue to motivate them to get better, which is what you are doing anyway.
Yeah.
But it's even more important now. I think the guys who are inspired will separate themselves even more from those who are not.
Right.
And, guys have to be creative. I remember being in a group chat with everybody and sending them all sorts of drills that had nothing to do with a baseball.
Yeah.
And that had nothing to do with baseball equipment and or training the mental game, different visualization techniques or relaxation techniques. that we were telling our guys about. It's basically all you can do. You want to encourage them to do as much baseball activity as you can, but you also don't want to put them in harm's way and expose them to other people. So we have to choose our words wisely, and the safety of every individual is our highest priority. So we have to stay focused on that.
Yeah. It's interesting because, as we mentioned, just as going from an assistant or a position coach to a head coach, this is an entirely different challenge for everybody because, the minor league guys that I've worked with and the college guys that I have right now, you can see that motivation kind of wane because you don't know what you're training for. Oh, it sounds like maybe the end of June. Well, now it's not June. Maybe it's the end of July. And so then that, for lack of a better word, maybe some depression kicks in. Am I ever going to play again? When is the next time I'm going to play again? So it's probably challenged your psychological strengths to keep guys motivated.
Absolutely. As I make recruiting calls, I'm telling the kids to utilize their multimedia skills that I didn't have and my peers didn't have, and get as much video of yourself training as possible. I know that could be difficult because you're outdoors and facilities can be scarce for some kids, but that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And so you just got to encourage them to continue to do it. And I think on the recruiting side of what we do, you're going to see a lot of teams just taking chances on some players.
Yeah.
You won't get a thorough evaluation. Yeah, the skill set might be great, but you still want to see how he controls the home plate as a hitter. Does he have a good eye for balls and strikes? Is he competitive with runners in scoring position? Where does he hit the ball to when he's in leverage counts? How does he handle two strikes? There's so many different aspects about baseball that you can't evaluate. It's going to be tough. So you got to try and call everybody that they know. If you're serious about a player, you got to call their high school coach and their travel ball coach, and you would assume you'd be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
But you just got to be extra thorough.
Yeah. Speaking of extra thorough, I'm pretty sure you've gone through all the videos inside out, forward and back, and it kind of seems to be the theme. There's only so much video you can watch.
Sure.
But I'm sure you've had a really good chance to go through everything that you've got video-wise on guys now.
Yeah. Anytime someone emails me a video, you watch it and you try to respond, as much as you can. For us, when we got hired, we had 15 players on the roster.
Yeah.
This was in the last summer, and we're in the middle of July. You have 15 players for the next year, and so you have to scramble and get guys. So we've always felt like we're playing catch up. And that's a lot different than a lot of other schools that we're competing against. They've already committed sophomores and freshmen in high school, and we're still working on the current team.
Right.
So I mean, even this 2020 graduating class, we were still working on trying to get players last month for this next season. So now we're starting to get into the next group of recruits, and we've committed some players from San Diego, and I kind of go where the waves kind of send me. I don't have necessarily one particular place, although the IE has always been a staple for me, because I'm from here and I know so many people. But going up to San Jose, and I was at Santa Barbara for a while, I kind of got removed and didn't have my finger on the pulse of the Inland Empire as much as I would like, because I had a lot of success recruiting here.
Sure.
So I would like to get back here. I'd like the blue-collar workers, the kids that don't come from a lot. Northridge isn't the sexiest of facilities, if you've ever been there.
Yeah.
So, if you get a kid who plays at a facility at his high school that's better than Northridge, Northridge is not going to be very appealing to them. So, I need to get more blue collar workers who don't care about the facade and the superficial things that kids get wrapped up in the recruiting process. That we need kids that care about the relationship with player and coach, and want to be the best player that they can be. And if their locker room's a little small, so be it. The most important thing to them is how they get better on the field, and the camaraderie with their teammates, and building something.
Yeah.
You know, we need guys that are excited to do that.
Yeah, going back a few years, I've always liked Northridge. I've gone out there a few times, and I had some kids go through there in the past, and it's always been a good experience for those guys. I don't think any of the Ryan Pineda, Miles Williams, John Parham, any of the guys that I've talked to never had a bad word to say about their experience out there. And one of the things that I explained to them is it's just kind of a unique Division I. It's not in the middle of anything. It's a place where you can play and grow and still play Division I baseball, and it's just something that guys don't focus on all the time, just because of like you said, where it's not the sexiest place in the world.
Yeah,
but it's a great school. I've always liked that, and then I told the guys, if you take some time and Google the tradition, there's been a lot of really successful people that have come out of Cal State Northridge, that maybe you've never heard of because they're not in certain mediums, but there's been a lot of successful people.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the team that won the National Division II championship at Northridge. So the tradition runs deep, and I think with the crew that we have currently there, with Dave Serrano, the head coach, myself, Neil Walton, and Elliot Surrey, and Tay Vanderford, I think we're doing it the right way. It's a matter of getting the right kids who have the same value system that we have. And I think that's kind of where the magic happens. So, I've worked at a very beautiful campus that where I call anybody and they're interested, and I've seen guys have miserable experience there.
Yeah.
So it still comes down to the people.
Yeah.
I really believe that. And I've seen that over the course of my 10 years of coaching, that if the relationship between the coach and the player is good, and the relationship that they have with their teammates is good, it doesn't matter really where you play. I think that's the beauty of baseball.
Yeah, it's the experiences that you build, and it's, we've talked about this in other podcasts, is getting the kids now to understand that the situation is more of what you make it rather than what the situation brings to you, because you can be a part of something that may not have been successful, but you could be a big piece in making that program successful, or helping
absolutely.
them make that jump.
It's a great message to give kids currently.
Yeah.
In the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, and being part of something that's built is probably more satisfactory, but a lot of times kids don't have the patience to do that, which that takes back to those blue collar guys. They're used to working.
Yeah, we were just talking to the coach at Eisenhower High School, right?
Angel.
We were just talking to Angel, and I asked him, "Do you have any good players?" And my first question right away is, "How mature is he?"
Yeah.
I want to dig into the personality before I dig into the skill set.
Yeah.
When I look back on my career as a recruiter, and I look at, and believe me, I was very green when I started. I didn't know what it was supposed to look like, what would translate from high school to the Division I level. It's such a big jump that a lot of kids don't realize how big it is. When I look back and I think of all of the players that were really, really good, number one, I didn't have to convince them that where I was coaching was the best fit for them. And the second is that they never lost that chip on their shoulder to prove that they were good. I've had several walk-on recruits that surpassed players that were on 75, 80% performance-wise on the field over the course of their career, because they came in with an edge to try and prove something.
Yeah.
So when I'm recruiting, and as you know, in baseball, you can't give everyone full rides. So we're an equivalency sport. We're very limited. Everyone's on a partial scholarship. So when I confront a player and I say, "Hey, I don't have any scholarship money for you. You can be a recruited walk-on and you can earn your way." And when a kid shows you no fear and says, "That's fine, I don't care," I love those kids. Those kids end up being, Shane Bieber is a great example. He's in the big leagues, and he walked on with no guarantee. And as a matter of fact, his senior year in the fall, he called me begging for a scholarship, and this is how good I am. I said, "No, go somewhere else if you want to." And he said, "Okay, I'll just show you how good I am." And the kids that show you that confidence and their ability and can't go to sleep comfortably in their college dorm room, because they need to get there's just something pulling at them at the field, and maybe it's just that insecurity of not having a spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes that goes a lot further than having talent, in my experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's an interesting comment, because we've talked about that before, where just because you have a scholarship, that doesn't guarantee your playing time. You still have to earn that spot. And I think kids don't understand there's a lot more responsibility that comes with that than a walk-on.
Yeah, absolutely. And coaches now, this is our livelihood. You know, I don't do anything except for recruit and coach. So performance is a big deal, and wins and losses are a big deal. And coaches are on short contracts. So, you know, and we have the philosophy that you try to develop the individual and a lot of things off the field. And if that's taken care of, then the baseball is kind of a byproduct of that. If you have a good environment, and that's true, absolutely. But you have to check yourself constantly as a coach to not put that added pressure on the player to perform, because you're feeling it on your end. It's really tough.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because you had a great observation when you were talking about your career in the minors. You looked at some of the guys you were playing with, and you had that foresight to go, I've got to pick things up, or this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And a lot of high school kids, I think, don't have that foresight. And granted, you were a lot older at the time, but, you know, I've always encouraged players, if you think you're a D1 player, go watch a D1 game and be honest. This guy plays the same position as I do. He's a lot bigger. He's a lot stronger. He's a lot faster. I've got some work to do. You know, just because I'm a junior or senior doesn't mean I'm ready to play at that level. And so I think just getting guys to understand that whatever level I play at, I still have to earn whatever I get. Absolutely.
I would encourage them to go watch a practice.
Yeah.
Because if a player asks me, can I come by and watch a practice, I would encourage all of our recruits to do that. Sit in the dugout, listen to the head coach speak to the team. Do you like what he says? Do you like how he treats other people? Do you like what I say?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we'll have recruits there, and I'm getting on one of my current players. I'm coaching him, you know, for whatever reason. Maybe he's not putting forth the effort that he should, and that's something that's controllable. And so we've determined that if you're not doing that, then you're going to hear it from me. And so I'm lighting my player up in front of a recruit, and if that means I lose the recruit, then so be it. I mean, I can't pull the wool over his eyes and make him seem, try and show him something that isn't real.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair, and it's not over the course of their career. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us.
Right.
We want to be as transparent as possible with all of our recruits. We have no agenda other than like trying to push you to be the best player that you can be, and if you want that, then join us, and if you don't, we'll say good luck.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, I mean, in essence, he was getting an up-close snapshot of you doing your job, coaching.
Sure.
You know, and it's interesting because when we started the conversation, you said your dad had told you to work for yourself. Well, people that work for themselves, they have to do that to themselves. Some people don't have that motivation. I'm sure your dad, there was many times that he felt he wasn't doing his job up to standards, and he chewed himself out. Because that's the nature of someone that works for themselves.
In his own way, yeah. When he wasn't chewing me out, I'm sure he was chewing himself out. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah, but that's the difference in playing for someone or working for someone, or you being the coach. And, you know, you have to have that accountability. And that's what high school kids have to understand. It's not you chewing that guy out. You're doing your job, because your job is to create an environment where everybody pushes themselves to that level.
And everybody, it happens at different times for everybody wants to be a D1 player out of high school, and junior college is okay.
Yeah.
Division II is okay. NAIA, have the experience, play baseball as long as you can, because your window is so small.
Yeah.
It's very, very small. There's lots of players at the Division I level at small schools that get drafted all the time.
Yeah. So back to Northridge real quick. With all of the extended times, how many guys did you have coming back or that were eligible to come back of that 15?
We had 9 seniors, and we had and everybody had a unique situation, you know, whether most of them were graduating. So some of them couldn't postpone the graduation to come back another year. Others couldn't afford it unless, you know, we gave them more money, which we weren't prepared to necessarily do. So we had to have individual conversations, and we're going to return 5 seniors. So and I guess that was the advantage of kind of being behind on the recruiting trail, was that we didn't have, any young high school players committed. When we took the job, we were so focused on the recruiting class that was about to be. So we were always behind. And because we were behind, we had scholarship money left over for the seniors, or at least some, to make it viable. And I'll be honest, kids and families are sacrificing more to be able to do it. And those are those conversations are tough in an equivalency sport. It's really tough. You've got 35 players on a roster. You're going to start with more than 35. At Northridge, we're capped. We can't bring in more, so you can't over-recruit and overdo it.
Sure.
So everyone has to have a role, which has been great. And, and kids and families understand what's going on, and a lot of the young returning players understand what's going on. And I've been fortunate enough to be around a great group of parents and recruits who try to do their best, and they're putting the team first, which is very rare.
Sure. Well, it's an interesting question to ask, especially now at this time, because I've had different answers, of course, everyone I've talked to, because you have a lot of kids that at that age, they may have already decided, hey, this isn't going to go any further than here, so let's move on with what I'm going to be. Or one coach told me he had a player that had already been accepted to the police academy, and he was already planning on starting in July or June or whatever it was. So there was no way he was coming back. It just didn't make financial sense for him. So it's just interesting because it does affect, in most situations, a lot of years.
Yeah, I think it'll take 2 or 3 years to finally get back to where we were. Everybody's roster is absolutely loaded this year.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Those 5 seniors coming back, they were all producers for us this last year. So I'm happy that they got their year back. I'm happy they're coming back, and we're going to be a better team because of it. But unfortunately, somebody has to wear that. It's usually that incoming freshman who you'll rely on in 2 or 3 years that maybe isn't as sharp as he could be because that senior came back. And it's baseball, though, right?
Yeah, there's always going to be adjustments.
Yeah, anywhere you go, there's going to be competition, and if you don't keep yourself sharp, and someone else takes your job, that's how the game is.
Yeah, another interesting thing I'm curious about. I know initially I paid a lot of attention to, because I think it was Bowling Green, and then there was one other division.
Boise State was just canceled.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that 2? Because I think Bowling Green came back.
Bowling Green did come back?
I thought one of them did. I thought there was 2 initially.
I don't remember the other one that you're thinking of. I know Boise State is the most recent.
Okay.
And from what I've seen on social media, they're trying to gather some fundraisers together to keep it afloat. I don't know, but now there's something called a transfer portal now. So if you want to if you're at Boise State and you want to open yourself up to the market of the country, you can.
Yeah.
You just ask your compliance person, can I be put on the portal, and boom, now everybody knows that you want out and can recruit you.
Yeah. Totally different.
It's a different world, yeah.
Yeah. Well, even now, I wonder, there's probably so many schools that are relying on football and the decision for those fall sports. What's going to happen is college football at your level brings in so much money for the entire sports programs and just in general for coaching and things. So I'm curious.
Well, Northridge is unique. We don't have football, so we don't have to worry about it. But programs that are relying on football, they are a lot more frustrated and nervous than we are. There's without any doubt.
Yeah.
Like we're hopeful that we have a smooth fall season, where we can institute our system. But football seasons are right around the corner, and there may not be one.
Yeah. Now, have you at Northridge, have they talked about going online all fall? Or
yes, right now we are prepared to go online the entire fall, possibly all of next year.
Wow.
Yeah. That'll be an adjustment, so instead of reporting early mid-August, so you can get acquainted with your team, maybe do a little early individual sessions, get to know guys. Guys may not show up till September.
Yeah.
There's no reason for them to pay early or pay more in rent, in an apartment to do that. our college dorms are going to be anywhere between 25 and 50% capacity.
Yeah.
So if you have a 3-bedroom suite where there normally would be six students, now you only have one in a 3-bedroom suite just to keep your distance.
Wow.
It'll be unique. Our school's doing everything that they can. They're meeting constantly. They're throwing all sorts of ideas around. You've got numerous student athletes using the same weight room.
Yeah.
Okay, how are we going to manage that? Those are all unique challenges that nobody's confronted.
Yeah.
So they're working through it.
Yeah. Well, I'm also curious how it's going to affect, just trickle down to the teams individually. Your responsibilities as coaches, how is that going to change? What type of training, what type of education you're going to have to know more about, things you're going to have to change on a practice level, like you had mentioned. I mean, we were talking, Angel and I earlier, I said there's so many things now that you focus on that maybe 8 months ago you never gave a second thought to. Especially on the baseball field, just being dirty is not an issue. I mean, spitting everywhere,
yeah.
Grabbing someone else's bat, helmet, pine tar. I mean, there's so many things that you could think about now. How am I going to manage that? How am I going to monitor that on top of my regular assigned duties as a coach, as a head coach?
It's difficult. You can prepare as much as you can, but until you know what you're able to do and not do, we're preparing to not be able to scrimmage as a team in the fall. How can you really evaluate your players that way?
Yeah.
How do you know opening day if you're, what your rotation's going to look like and what your depth chart looks like? And some guys are trying to make the team.
Yeah. That's
going to be unfair for them. We're going to do the best that we can. I think our staff does a great job of meeting every day, talking about the team and where we lack and what we can do better. So I'm confident.
Yeah.
I'm confident that we will do everything that we can. Maybe it's about being creative and doing a lot of video breakdown. A big aspect of college baseball is voluntary practicing. Because our hours are limited with our guys. So you want to recruit a kid that's very inspired to work on his own and be in the cage hit until 10 p.m.
Right.
Well, now they can't do that anymore because they'll be exposed to other people, and facilities are going to have to be tightly monitored. And how do you navigate that? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we talked about, as a player, you're used to that deadline being prepared for, and the nature of a coach is to prepare and plan and prep and pregame and things like that. And so now, same thing the players are going through. You don't have a timeline. We don't even know what it's going to look like to prepare. So, I was kind of putting my mind through that mentally, in coaches' positions, and I probably have 5 or 6 different sheets of paper where I'm, okay, well, if it looks like this, if it looks like that, so you've got a B, C, D, E, and F plan.
Sure.
And it maybe ultimately none of those work, and you have to come up with something else. So, I mean, as a coach, it's a new challenge on a lot of different levels outside of your normal comfort zone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I'm curious how that works forward. But, I'm hoping it's optimistic, and I'm hoping that, everyone that can do something about the situation, figure something out. It's tough talking to other people that we've had in here. It's hard because we've been used to going to certain places and certain people for answers, and now those people don't have the answers, and
Yep.
it's a lot of second guessing and guessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, just to wrap up, because I told you we'd keep it short, and
okay.
We can always come back. I'm hoping you guys come back through on a game day. Maybe I can catch you at the field.
Sure.
But if you were to give me just a quick snapshot of the places you've been, do you have a favorite area? Do you kind of want to stay in the Southern? I understand the family aspect of it, but as far as coaching opportunities come up, is there an area of the country that you might be curious about, or maybe in your minor league travels you kind of liked or thought, hey, this wouldn't be a bad place to relocate to?
I haven't really thought about it. I think if you ask my wife, she'll have a very strong opinion about where to live. I can be anywhere. I've lived in Oklahoma. I've lived in Texas. Modesto, California seems like a totally different planet, depending on where you go.
Sure.
Yeah, I've been in so many different places that it doesn't really matter. My priority is taking care of my family. If I can do something good in baseball, I'll work as hard as I can to do that. I don't really have a favorite. I'm focused on what I need to do at Cal State Northridge, trying to make my players as best baseball players as they can be, and recruit the right fit. See if we can make some magic there, and whatever happens at that. This job, I feel, is so unpredictable. If you would have told me, would you like to go up to San Jose? Would you like to live in Santa Barbara? Would you even like to coach for a living? I would have said no to all of those things, but I'm just riding the wave, and putting my head down and going to work and just focusing on, if I can take care of the players, if I can do what I can for our coaching staff, I think the game will reward us and will reward me. So I don't knock down doors trying to see what the next job is like, and I'm happy where I'm at. Northridge is it's a great place to work. If you ask our current players, whether they enjoy it there, I think they'd give you a positive review of the job that we're doing. So I'm happy where we are. I do have to talk to you about the guy that brought us together. The guy that I recruited at Santa Barbara, Shane Martirosian.
I got to get out of arm's range. I was hoping you forgot about that.
No, of course not. No, to this day, Shane Martirosian, who played at King High School in Riverside, he's one of my all-time favorite recruits.
All right, good. I'm glad.
His family was great. Onik, his dad. Carrie, his mom. They were great. Now, he never showed up to campus. I would have loved to have coached him, but he ended up being so good. I remember, I think didn't I go to your facility, and I saw him take some swings, and God, this guy's going to be special. And I was a left-handed hitter, right-handed throwing infielder to begin with, and it was obvious this kid was better than me. So, I had to recruit him. He was awesome. So I'm glad he brought us together. Even though him and I didn't actually get to work together. I do remember because he got drafted out of high school. Do you remember what round he got drafted in?
I want to say it was like 7 or 8, somewhere in there, maybe 7.
And I remember I was sweating it. Of course, I had a feeling that he was going to sign professionally and not show up to campus. And I remember just wearing you out, calling you, because you were. I would call him, and he would sometimes answer my call, sometimes he wouldn't, but I would just hammer you, so I apologize if I overstepped my bounds and got you too hard.
I was afraid, like I said, that here it comes. I'm like, okay, he's going to shoot. And, the funny thing is, it didn't. I enjoyed it because I enjoy talking to you guys, and I just enjoy being involved. And he and I still talk about it. We just golfed yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Believe it or not.
Please tell him hello, and tell him if he's in the area, tell him to come on by.
Yeah.
I'm still a huge fan, and I was rooting for him to do well.
Yeah. Well, the thing was because I started with him when he was 7, and so we still, we have a different relationship. He still jokingly calls me uncle. I'm about the same height as Onyx, so it could be family. But, when I told him, I said, I never had your kind of talent. And I said, and when I was your age, if someone had given me $1,000 and, a taco every night, I'm gone. Not thinking about what goes on. And I said, so ultimately it's your decision, and he made a compelling enough argument. Not that I could have swayed him the other way, but I look at it from my end. I wish I'd have had the wherewithal 40 years ago or however long it's been to figure out baseball wasn't in my future and get an education and teach and coach or whatever. But he had a special talent, and then he got to learn things at that level. And fortunately, now that he came back, the money that the Reds had given him, he went through the Fire Academy, so he's getting ready to start that at the end of this month.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and he's actually going back to school, so he's taking classes online. So, I mean, his argument was that window you talked about. He says if I knew I was going to be an engineer or I wanted to do something specific outside of baseball, then college made sense for me. He says, but my whole life I've wanted to be a ball player, and so this is starting my job right out of high school.
Yeah, and I don't blame him one bit.
And you played at that level. I haven't. So
I'm just a competitive guy, and I wanted him on my team, and he was good. And it was actually a really big blow to our recruiting class not having him, because he would have I'm trying to remember what recruiting class that was. I think it might have been, when did he graduate? 2014?
Yeah, I think it was 14. Because what do we say? Yeah, 14.
Because we year there maybe. Because we hosted a regional, I think that next year, and he would have helped us maybe get out of that regional, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm still a big fan of Shane. He was awesome. Like you said, very special talent, even better person. Family was great.
Yeah, he felt so bad, and I was like, well, you're not, this has nothing to do personal. I said, just be honest with him, talk to him. But, yeah, like I said, I always feel bad when I connect people together, and I said, but ultimately it's their decision. I can't even sit and say I had the kind of talent to even be fortunate to make that decision. So it was just one of those where, and like I said, down the road now, I'm glad. I mean, I consider you a friend. I enjoy talking to you. Yeah. I mean, I was pumped to see you in the airport, and I was even more excited. I'll have to introduce you to my wife one time, how excited I was last night. I'm like, oh man, I got to get him in. I hope he can come at 3 because, I don't know how often I see you. And, again, in a situation like this, I've been telling everybody, what this gives me more satisfaction to be able to sit and talk to you. We've had little snippets of conversations, but in a normal time, you'd be working. You'd be doing something right now. You'd be scouting on the road somewhere, and maybe we run into each other and maybe we don't. And so I've had this opportunity to kind of make the most of this and catch coaches and talk to them and get to know them more as people other than, hey, I got to get to the bus, or, hey, I got to get throwing BP. And, it's just as people, it's fun to talk to kind of people with like backgrounds. And
one of the things about coaching in college is if you recruit big time players, you got to find a way to get them to show up, right? Because the best of the best, Major League Baseball is going to want them. And we talked about adversity of what we're facing now, and the experience I had recruiting Shane and losing Shane, not getting him to show up to campus, really forced me to figure out, okay, how can I at least educate kids, educate families, and whatever decision they make. But I always look back on my experience with Shane thinking I didn't do enough. And because I lost him, it motivated me to really put a plan together and get recruits together and educate them. And what we started to find is that more kids started to show up to campus. I ended up having my best recruiting class shortly afterwards. I think it was ranked 9th in the country.
Yeah.
At some point. And so I look at, as devastating as that was, it really helped my career as a recruiter and it helped me be better.
Yeah, I can't imagine on your end, you kind of look at recruiting from the school standpoint, like you mentioned, the facilities have something to do with it, your record has something to do with it, your ESPN ranking. But then as a Division I school, for those higher level players, you're competing with the majors, you're competing with MLB, you're competing with something that they've had as a dream from the time they first picked up a glove. So that competition is totally different because there's really no way you can even explain. You probably have a better being a little bit more in that area because you played at the pro level to give them both sides of it. But until they actually experience it, it's hard to get them to understand that.
I think it'll always be hard. Trying to tell an 18-year-old not to get paid to play baseball is really tough.
Yeah, especially when it's been a dream.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's a tough call. But again, that window and it's everyone's time and getting them to try to make the right decision at 16, 17. I mean, that's every parent's goal.
Yeah, no doubt.
Has nothing to do with baseball. But
so are we gonna drink some of these now? Is that
you know what? It's a sponsor, and since you're from the area, I'm gonna let you walk away. But you know what? I will tell you what. I got these are the 5.0s. You seem more like a 6.5 guy, so I got those in there. And when they just closed back up again because of the whole COVID thing again. Yeah. So the cool thing about this, one of the guys I went to school with is the president of the company. And so that's how we got the sponsorship with him. So
do they deliver? Will they ship some to you?
They need to. They just opened up. Actually, it's an amazing story. In 3 years, actually not even 3. So in November of 3 years ago, we went to their grand opening. And now this November will be 3 years. And they just opened up in El Paso. and they've opened up in Florida. They have their Newport location. The next one after the beginning of the year, I believe, is going to be in Albuquerque breweries, and they're opening up a distributorship in Texas. So they have a central hub for both East and West Coast.
I know they have the little dog here, but is there any connection to the city of Chihuahua?
No, actually, you know what? He told me the story, and it's on one of the podcasts. But
I'll look into it.
I wasn't a very good student, so I didn't remember everything. I was more in awe of all the taps and the food and everything that was going on. But no, I will definitely let you walk away with some, so you can try it and let me know. You just gotta post a picture so I can put it on the website. So, but yeah, again, man, like I said, it was great having you out. I appreciate you.
Thank you for
you getting
me.
in contact with me, man.
Yeah, of course.
I thought I was telling the guys, I'm like, man, I thought he was just telling me, next time I'll call you, and then lo and behold, you did.
You know what it was is my former teammate Chris Stewart was on your podcast. So as I was scrolling, we got back from our camping trip. We go to my parents' house because we've got to visit. We have nephews and nieces who are having birthdays and things. And I'm scrolling through Instagram, and I see Chris Stewart on your podcast, and I go, "Oh shoot, I'm here. I gotta get a hold of Ernie and get on here."
I'll have to thank him. I think we mentioned you in there because I think he mentioned you at RCC or he mentioned you in some way, and I said, "Well, if you have any pull, can you let him know to come on?" So I don't know if I don't know if it was in one of the clips, but I know it's on the full podcast. And so, right now these guys are cutting up the clips for me, and they're saving all the fulls. And so when things kind of get back to normal, I'm going to work on getting the podcast on.
Good for you.
Spotify or something.
Chris is an amazing guy.
Yeah. Well, I got to get him in for part 2 because I think I cut him off somewhere around the Rangers organization. Okay. I don't think we got into Pittsburgh or Chicago or any place else. But,
he needs to continue to have that platform he does, and he does a great job. He's got a wonderful family, and he deserves to be heard.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's done really well. I did a camp with him right there in Orange Crest 2 years ago, I think, for Sandals Church, and then we've kind of stayed in contact ever since. And yeah, like I said, we've only had brief conversations prior to that, and like I said, when he came in, we just kept going, and before you know it, it was like 90 minutes, and I kept saying, I don't want to take any more. No, it's good. I'm like, I don't want to keep you here 5 hours and talking about baseball. But again, like I said, man, it's a real privilege to have you in, and,
thank you.
I'm really glad you text me. And hopefully the next talk, I'll come out to the field and we can chat either after a game or chat before a game. That was kind of the actual intention when I started this. Was I was going to catch everybody as they came into CBU, UCR, RCC. And I thought it would be kind of cool, but this gave me an opportunity to have a full conversation with you. Maybe next time we can get the families together and just have dinner and just chat off camera and kind of catch up on things.
I feel like we talked a lot about me. I mean, let's talk baseball, a lot of baseball next time.
We can. Well, that was. I mean, so like I was telling you about Alonzo.
Yeah.
I kept telling him, I said, I want to sit and break down hitting with you, but I got to remember we're on camera and nobody's going to want to sit and listen. It's like we're talking different languages.
Sure.
But I think one of the things that I explain to guys is that, as a 17-year-old player, 16-year-old player talking to a coach, it's intimidating because this guy has,
no doubt.
He has my future in his hands, and they don't really understand that you're a regular guy. You have a family. Coaching is just what you do. It's not who you are, and it's a way for you to express your genuine care for these players. I'm trying to find the right fit for you, for your future, and sometimes they don't understand that, and I think I want to open it up so they understand that guys like you and guys like Dennis and all the other coaches, you're genuinely there for the best interests of these kids, whether they come to Santa Barbara, whether they go to another place, whether they go to Northridge, whether they go to RCC. You have no problem helping them out and kind of guiding them along just in their future as men.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what I want to make coaches a little bit more approachable and a little bit easier to talk to, because it's the more they're involved as players and the more they're involved as students and just as human beings, it's going to help them go a little bit further.
It helps if you understand, like for us, if I'm recruiting a player, I've got to get to know him. I got to understand what his family dynamic is, what are his true wants and desires, and it isn't until I get to know him that we could come to an agreement that makes sense, and where a commitment isn't surprising, where I fully expect it. And so I would encourage families and kids to do the same thing. Educate yourself on what coaches do and how much they work. Sometimes we're just so busy we can't answer an email.
Yeah.
A player might be very interested in educating himself in the process, but I've got these 10 guys that I got to try and get a commitment from.
Yeah.
And 10 guys, maybe 2 or 3 guys. I'm trying to get a commitment from these 2, and they're taking up a lot of time. And then I've got my current team and players to worry about. So you're getting constantly pulled in the springtime. It's the most difficult, I think, for a recruiter. You feel, okay, do I go see this player that is the future, or do I really help our current team and maybe help our shortstop gain a little bit more confidence for the next series? So I'm constantly pulled.
Yeah.
And if parents and students understand that a little bit more, and they can maybe structure questions a certain way or structure communication a certain way that could just be more efficient. I would encourage, when things open back up, I would encourage kids to go to camps.
Yeah.
Go to a Division I camp, and it'll cost you a little bit of money, but it might save you money in the long term, because when we have, let's say, 50 kids at a prospect camp, I'll tell everyone, and including their parents, ask us if we are interested and to what degree.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you, you're not ready. Thank you for coming. You seem more of like a junior college player. You need more time. Or, hey, we think you're close.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe make a couple more jumps, and then maybe we're gonna have a serious talk. Or, you are exactly what we're looking for. I need to do some homework on you. I need to call your coaches and find out if there's any red flags to make me not want to recruit you.
Yeah.
So I would encourage that. Come out to a camp and just ask coach, hey, Coach Cornejo, please be brutally honest. Am I ready? No. Yes, maybe. Whatever the case may be. But at least they get some feedback.
Right.
Most of the time, you go to a prospect camp and you pay whatever, $250, $300, and maybe the camp gives you a written evaluation. You throw that right out the window. And as far as I'm concerned, I want them to come up and approach me and say, "What do you think? Are you going to recruit me or not?" Mm-hmm. And I have no problem being honest.
Yeah, but I mean,
and parents appreciate that. I think
some do. Some
players
don't.
appreciate that. They most of the time they just don't know where they fit.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to get some feedback.
Yeah. But I mean, and then that's like I was saying here. I'm hoping somebody will come across this and go, "Hey, that's a guy that's been emailing me," or, "Hey, you know what? I saw that guy at a camp." And you know how that works. You ask in the group of kids, "Hey, does anybody have any questions?" No arm goes up. As soon as you dismiss them, you got 10 guys in line to ask you a question. Sure. And that's the kind of thing I try to encourage kids. Now it's a totally different era, and you have to be more proactive. If you have an email from a coach and he says, email me with any questions, email him with any questions. If you go to that camp, take the time to go up and talk to him. Because like you said, you're so limited with your time. Once they get on campus, it takes a while to get to know a player and to really get to know him. And so if I can break down some of those barriers or some of those insecurities that kids see on camera, and they go, "Oh yeah, hey, I know that guy from Northridge. I'll give him a call, or I'll send him a text, or I'm interested in that camp." If it opens it up and makes him a little bit more confident to approach a coach, then it works. Unfortunately,
you have so many families that they're just so caught up in trying to find a place that they just want to know if you're going to offer or not,
right,
instead of being willing to go through the process.
Right.
And it is a process that takes some time.
Yeah. So last question. I know I'll keep going all night.
Okay.
If right now you said you started with 15 players
when we got hired at Northridge.
Where are you guys at in the recruiting process? Have you done any commitments or anything since all this started?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a, anytime you go recruiting, even though you're not necessarily, like if we're focused on one class, I'm not going to ignore that sophomore that's really good,
mm-hmm.
Or if I'm watching a junior college game and let's say I'm looking at a pitcher, I know that freshman second baseman's got a chance at some point. So you got to be organized, and I'll have my list. And so when the shutdown happened and COVID started to spread and we were limited, we got 4 or 5 commitments because I had my my list, and I knew who was good, or who at least who I was interested in, and we were able to work out deals over the phone. Wasn't able to show them campus. I send them plots on a map. Go to this spot at school. Go to this spot. Avoid this spot.
Yeah.
And that's how we're working. I've offered to do FaceTime tours, when I was on campus, but now campus is closed. I can't even do that.
Yeah.
So I've asked a couple of kids to go to campus yourself, and don't stray away too far. It's Northridge.
Yeah.
Be aware. And that's how we're doing it.
Yeah. I'm just curious to know where you guys are at on that, because I know coaches have told me they've done a lot of their homework, but I've really asked if anyone did any committing since then. So it's good to know that that's still happening.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah. I think it's a positive though, because it kind of gives kids that foresight to, okay, well, I'm still going. I committed to them. They committed to me. I got to get ready. So maybe some of the kids that weren't motivated to do that.
And even if they're young kids and they're emailing their videos and I'm not responding because, it's not time to recruit a sophomore in high school for us right now, doesn't mean I won't remember. If I liked their video, I got to put them on my list for later.
Sure. Yeah.
So whatever they do, whether they email, whether they call, I think it's really important that they create a good rapport with their coaches. Yeah. So like one of your players confronts you and says, Ernie, I want to go to Cal State Northridge. You can pick up the phone and call me and say, I've got a guy that's good or not. I don't think you'll call me if he's not good.
Right.
So I would encourage them to build a rapport with their coaches and have their coaches reach out on their behalf. That goes a long way.
Yeah.
Because I need coaches like you and others to help me identify players and try to help me get them.
Yeah.
So, if I get a bunch of random calls from sophomores in high school, I'm probably not calling them back, or juniors in high school, I'm not calling them back. But if you call me, I'm always going to call you back.
Right.
You can filter a lot of the kids. If a kid comes to you and he's just not ready, I think you'll be honest with them,
right.
and that way they don't have to spin their wheels with me and get a bunch of empty replies.
Yeah.
So I think having a good rapport with coaches is important. Whatever they do, whether it's emailing and coaches are not emailing back, I don't think their efforts go unnoticed. Mm-hmm. I think something's going to come about for them.
Yeah, I think
something positive.
I think just learn to be proactive is what I've noticed, that a lot of kids over the last 10 years, I think some of that has kind of waned a little bit. Even though they're out more in the videos and all the recruiting services and things, I think the players themselves, like you had mentioned earlier, educating yourself, there's so much access to it. And I try to always encourage kids, you have such a different avenue than you did or that I did 10, 20, 30 years ago now, to not take advantage of it. There's so many ways you can be accountable.
And the more they know, the better decisions they make. Like, for instance, we have 35 guys on a roster, and only 27 of them can get a scholarship. Mm-hmm. So we have to recruit 8 walk-ons. And there's financial aid available. Mm-hmm. Throughout. There's grants available, money you don't have to pay back. So if you want to be recruited and you qualify for financial aid, let me know that. Mm-hmm. That's advantageous for me to have somebody either on a small scholarship, on no scholarship. You're getting all this grant money. I don't have to necessarily take care of you, and I can make our team better. Mm-hmm. So the more they're educated on how things work, what coaches go through, puts them, I think, in a better position to be recruited. Yeah. Most of the time, they want to send a video out. Give me an offer, please respond ASAP, and that's it.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the time to educate themselves, like you said.
Yeah. So that is good advice, and it's cool that you said that, because one of the things I usually do to end it is I say, if there's something you could say to the high school guys out there as a college coach that would help them, what would it be? And I think you just touched on all of those. So I mean that was great advice, but it's always good hearing it from a Division I coach themselves, because sure. I can tell you, and at some point I'm with them so much I become like a parent, and you're always saying that, but until they hear it from multiple sources, now all of a sudden it becomes valid. But it's good that they hear that and they hear those type of things, because I think a lot of players don't want to accept that maybe until it's too late.
Sure. And I would say, if there's been plenty of times where a player reaches out to me and says, I'm interested in Northridge, and I am just not ready to recruit them yet for whatever reason. I'm focused on other things, and that kid is relentless, and he continues to pester me and annoy me, and eventually I'm going to stop what I'm doing and address it.
Sure.
So I would encourage everyone, if you're passionate about being recruited and you want to be a Division I player and you feel like you are, first of all, get some some accurate feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are there and you want to pursue a place like Northridge, just annoy everybody until it happens. That's what I tell our incoming guys, right? Mm-hmm. When you go through the admissions process at any university, you think if you send a transcripts, everyone's going to drop what they're doing to handle it? No, you've got to annoy everybody until what you need done gets done. So that's how I coach our current players. I think that's how you got to coach everybody in your program. Just annoy everyone.
Is this the part where you give out Dave's cell number? let him text him. And call him?
I won't do that. I like coaching. So,
well, like I said, man, I appreciate you coming in. I don't want to keep you from your family. It's okay. Friday holiday weekend.
I just spent 9 days with them 24/7, so I think they'll be okay without me.
Well, this was fun, man. Like I said, it was good, and I didn't even realize we did. I thought we were talking baseball.
We are.
It's just different. Like I said, it's there's so many questions that I have, and I don't realize how little I know about a lot of the coaches that I have in, because we've never really had a time to just sit and talk.
Yeah.
It was fun before. I think we talked about Sam earlier. I used to do the stuff in Arizona for the baseball factory, so I'd catch all these guys like at the Junior Olympics and all these different events, and so afterward, just nothing to do. So we're hanging out at McDuffie's or Chili's or whatever there is, and we're talking. So I don't get to do that anymore. And again, doing the job that I do and doing the job you guys do, everything is just so busy all the time, and I'm really thankful. Not because of everything that happened, but thankful that I've had this opportunity for downtime for guys like you that would just be nonstop on the road all the time, and it's good for you guys to spend the time with your family, because who knows when it starts again, that hamster wheel is going to get rolling. But, for me on a selfish level, it's nice to be able to sit and chat with you. And, just since our first conversations, I consider you a friend, so
likewise.
Anytime you want to just sit and chat.
I considered you a non-friend when Shane signed professionally, just for 24 hours.
But, so I'll tell you, do you golf?
Yeah, I go.
You're probably better. Everybody's better than me. I think yesterday was actually my 5th time out there golfing.
Then I'm probably better than you.
I just bought a set of clubs right before everything happened, and so I was lucky enough to use them a couple times. But yeah, so the next time you're out, Shane and I went. And he can drive, but he can't putt. I can't do either. So I was just happy that I made it through with 4 balls, I think, yesterday. So it was a good round for me. But I gotten better at finding them. I think that's got to be plus. Yeah. It's not costing me a mint every time I go out. But we will definitely, next time you're in town, we'll set something up.
Okay.
Adam is I don't think Adam was here when you got here, but Adam is a member at Victoria. So he saw that we were playing up at General, and he texted me. He says, "What are you guys playing over there for? Just call me. I'll take you over to Victoria." I go, they have nice grass. I don't think they want me out there. But definitely we'll get together and do that, and we'll get together and just chat off camera. And hopefully we'll have some time next time to do this again before everything
I appreciate it. I had fun. Thanks for inviting me.
No, man, you're anytime. You want to have a part 2, let me know. All right, guys, so that's a wrap for Chapter 4 today on Friday. But again, we're going into the 4th of July weekend. Everybody be safe out there. Again, I want to thank my guest, Eddie Cornejo from Cal State Northridge, our sponsors, Chihuahua Cerveza, Adam Schwartz Real Estate, and 100% Media. So until next time, stay safe.